All right, welcome to the first video of the next unit. And in this unit, we're going to talk about methods in Java programming. Okay, so first off, we're going to create a brand new project, and I'm going to call it Unit 4. Actually, I'm going to call it ICS3U just to distinguish it from my ICS4U Unit 4. And I'm going to save mine to the desktop. So you, of course, make sure you save this to your Google Drive file stream. So make sure you sign in first through the Start menu, and then create your new project. Okay, so we'll create that, and our first class is going to be called Function Methods 1. So we're probably going to spend 2 classes on function methods. So this will be an introduction. Okay. And I'm just going to start us off with an example. So function methods 1. Sorry, probably should have done this ahead of time, but I can do it quickly. Set up the main method. Okay, and I'm going to import scanner because I'm going to have some user input, and then first thing I'm going to do is create my scan variable. Okay, so I'm going to write a program where the user is going to enter 2 numbers. So print enter A. Okay, so I'll make a variable called A, and that will be scan.nextInt. And then they're going to do it again. They're going to enter another int, and we'll call that B. Okay, and then all I want to do is print the smaller value. I want to print the smaller of A and B, the minimum of A and B. So we're going to say if A is less than B, then print A. Else print B. Okay, what if they were equal? Well, if they were equal, then this would be false, so it would go to the else and it would print B, which is okay. So that will just print one of the 2 numbers, which is fine. That would still be the minimum of the 2. Okay, so now what if I wanted to do this again? So I want to ask for 2 more numbers. So I'm just going to copy that, and then down here, I'm going to ask for 2 more numbers. Let's call them C and D, and I'm going to create 2 new variables. And then let's say I wanted the minimum of those 2. Well, I could just copy this code, paste it here, and just carefully change the variables, C and D, C and D. Okay, and that should work. Let's give it a try. So I'm going to compile. And let's run it. Okay, so let's say 5 and 7, so it should print 5. Yep. Okay, and then it's asking me for C, so let's say 9 and 3, so it should print 3. Okay, works like a charm. So what if I wanted to do it one more time? So I want to have 2 more numbers. So I'm just going to copy this whole thing here and paste. Okay, don't get lost here. So this is going to be E and F. So I'm going to create 2 more variables, E and F, and then change your if statement. So if E is less than F, then print line E. Okay, so I hope this makes sense. Pretty straightforward. I just have 3 pairs of integers, and I'm printing the minimum of each pair. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this common piece of code. So notice that this code is very similar to this code here and is very similar to this code. And kind of like in math class, what we're going to do is common factor those 3 pieces of code out. Don't worry. If you don't know what that means in math, don't worry about it. But it's kind of similar to common factoring. So we're going to take those 3 common pieces, and we're going to write some code down here. Now, let me just show you where I am right now. Here's my class header. So this is my class header and my open brace. and then this is my main method and my open brace. And so right now all of my code is inside the main method, but we're going to add another method underneath the main method. So we're still inside the class, but we're outside of the main method. So we're going to make a new method, public static, but instead of void, I'm going to write int, and just bear with me. I'll tell you what this means in a bit. And then I'm going to write min, stands for minimum. Okay, this is just the name of your method. You can actually call that whatever you want. I'm going to call it min. And then I'm going to declare two variables here, x and y. Okay. This is going to be a little bit weird until I kind of explain it after. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the very first if statement here. I'm going to take all this and cut it. So I'm going to delete it and paste it inside my method down here. Okay. And then instead of saying a is less than b, I'm going to say if x is less than y. And then instead of printing this, I'm going to say return. So that's a brand new, notice it lights up in a different color. So this is a Java command, and it's a new word for us. So I'm going to return x. Otherwise, I'm going to return y. Okay. Now I'm going to go back up to where I cut out my code. So this region here where I deleted my code. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to say system.out.println min. So I'm calling the name of my brand new method. So this method that I created down here, I'm just saying the name of it, min. And then I'm going to put a bracket, and then I'm going to put two numbers inside here. So a and b, I'm going to put inside these brackets. Okay, so these are actually called, there's a special name to these things. They're called parameters. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm taking this value and this value, and I'm sending them down to the min method. So I'm basically saying, hey, pass these down to the min method. And again, if I look down at the min method, I have two parameters here that receive the data that's coming down. So a gets plugged into x and b gets plugged into y. So wherever you see x and y, I'm really talking about a and b. Okay, it's a little weird, a little confusing. Oh, I'm missing a semicolon there. But this actually works. And how it works is Java will do all these 4 lines, and then when it gets to this line, when the compiler sees this, it jumps out of the main method. So we actually jump out of the main method, and we pass a and b, we pass those integers down to x and y. And then we run this code. Now, what does the return statement mean? Well, it doesn't print anything. It simply just returns this value or this value back to where the method was called. So it's going to return this number or this number back to here, this thing here. So what that means is this highlighted region, this is going to be replaced by either one of these, A or B. So whichever one is smaller, that's going to be replaced right there. Okay. Now, the benefit to doing this, the benefit to making a method down below is that now I can do that again for here. So I can take out this if statement comparing C and D, and I can simply just print line min C and D. So what I'm doing is I'm calling my method again. So I'm reusing this method. I'm calling this method again, but this time I'm passing down C and D. So the C value and the D value are going to be passed down to the min method. And so I'm going to call this method again. I'm going to redo this code, but this time X is going to be C and Y is going to be D. So I'm using different values, and then I'm going to return the smaller of the two. And where am I returning that to? I'm returning it back to here. All right. Then I can do it again. So this very last if statement, I can delete that, and I can just print the min of E and F. Okay, so I'm jumping out of the main method and I'm passing e into x and f gets passed into y. So now I'm comparing e and f, and I'm returning the smaller of the two. So the whole purpose of a method is for code reuse. You're basically taking a common chunk of code, so something that occurs frequently up here in the main method, and you're taking it out and just writing it once, and then you're just reusing that code as many times as you need to. Okay, so now my main method is much shorter. I don't have all those if statements. I just wrote the if statement once and packaged it inside this little method, and then I'm calling it 3 times. Okay, so now just to show you, I'm going to compile and run it, and this should work just as before. Okay, so 4 and 5, 4, 8 and 2, okay, and 6 and 6. Okay, so the program works fine, and I've done it more efficiently using a method. Okay, so when you make a method, to make a method, you must first include the method header. So this thing here declares the start of the method. It's called a method header, and this requires a few things. Something called an access modifier. Okay, you don't really have to know what that means. Just put public. There are other access modifiers like private and protected, but in this course we're always going to use public for the beginning. Okay, then we need a static modifier. Static modifier. So I'm not going to explain what that means right now, but just put the word static. Okay. Next is something important that you need to understand, and it's called a return type. So this third thing that we put here is the type of data that is going to be returned back to the main method. So in this case, we're finding the minimum of 2 integers. So what is being returned? An integer is being returned. So this method is actually giving back an integer. Now, that doesn't have to be int. It could be a double, it could be Boolean, it could be char, it could be string. It depends what type of method you're making. This could be any data type. Okay. Now, as we'll see down the road in another lesson, this can also be void. We've actually seen that before in the main method. You can put void for the return type, and that just means nothing is being returned. And we're going to cover that a little bit later. And that's called a procedure method when nothing is being returned. But right now, we'll get to that in another video. Okay, next comes the name of the method. So in our case, the name of the method is just min, but that can be any name that you choose. Okay, and then finally comes a list of input parameters. So this is where you're going to declare as many variables as you want. This basically represents the input coming into our method. So what data you want to come into this method. So in this is a very simple method that just finds the minimum of 2 ints. So I need to declare 2 input parameters, 2 integers to come in. Okay, and then you must put that inside parentheses. Now, you don't have to have 2. You can have like 3. You could have 10 parameters. You could even have 1 or 0 parameters, which is a little bit weird, but that is possible. And they could be different data types. So as we'll see in other programs, they don't always have to be ints. And also, the return type does not have to match these input parameters here. Okay. All right. I hope this is a confusing concept at first, but with practice, it should be a little bit easier as you see more examples. So I've prepared an exercise for you to complete, and there are a lot of examples there. So we can work on those together, and I'm gonna have another function methods video for next class with some other examples. Oh, by the way, what is a function method? A function method is just a method that returns something. Okay, so this method returns either x or y. If this were void, then that means it wouldn't return anything. So you would have to get rid of these lines. And then that's called a procedure method. Anyway, that's coming in another video. Right now, we'll just focus on function methods, methods that return a value. Okay, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.